So, welcome one and all. My name is Orla O'Sullivan, and I'm so happy to have this session together, this practice session to look at ways to take care of our anxiety and to nourish our happiness. And this is the final day of the World Happiness Festival. So, this is Dublin's Happiness Agora, kind of a space to explore ways to nourish our happiness. And it is wonderful that it's one of the jewels of the pandemic that it just melted borders. So a Dublin Agora has no kind of strict meaning anymore. So it's great that we can join with Brazil, with other countries, and practice together. So with our mindfulness practice, it is not an intellectual thing at all. So it's kind of like if I spent the time trying to describe the taste of mango to you, that would be pointless. So instead, what we're going to do is taste the mango ourselves. And so to begin, please take a moment to have a really comfortable position with your body. We want to make our body a place that's comfortable to bring our mind home to. So if you're sitting upright, you can allow a sense of connection in your seat. So kind of snuggle in your seat a little bit so that you can really feel what's underneath you, whether that is a chair, a bed, sofa, the floor, cushion, whatever is supporting you in this moment. We take a moment to really forge a connection with it. And then allowing there to be a sense of vibrancy in your spine. So you might imagine that you're a tree growing up towards the sunlight, or your spine might be the stalk of a giant sunflower. Just very naturally growing up towards the sunshine. And when we have that sense of uprightness, then we allow the whole rest of our body to relax. So once we're snuggled in on our seat, our back has an uprightness, then please allow the whole rest of your body to relax. So inviting our head and neck to rest. And you might need to bobble your head a little bit to see what is the most easeful position for my neck. So you might kind of explore left or right, back or forward. Sometimes tucking your chin towards your chest produces a very strong sense of ease in your neck. So that can be a skillful way to help our neck and throat to rest. Then allowing the top of your shoulders, allowing your shoulder blades to rest. Allowing your two arms, your two hands that have done so much already, even if it's early morning for us. They've already done a lot to help us, to take care of us, to take care of other people. So simply allowing your arms, your hands to rest and sinking your awareness down. So coming down into your torso, allowing your tummy to be soft so that your breath is received in a softening tummy. And sensing that opening and expansion with your in-breath. And that quality of releasing, letting go with your out-breath. So that every breath can offer us the opportunity to receive maybe care or refreshment, lighting up every cell. And every breath can help us to let go as well. Letting go of the day, letting go of a burden, just letting go. And sinking your awareness further again. So sinking deeper past your belly button, washing over your hips, washing down through your legs, all the way down to your 2 feet, and sensing your right foot, your left foot. Might sense what they're in contact with. Might be aware of different textures. And you can wiggle your toes. I invite you to allow your toes to wiggle. And if you're feeling distracted or restless, then really put some vigor into it so that you really monotask. Allow yourself to just focus on your wiggling toes, sensing their energy and life, maybe their warmth. And then allowing your feet to rest and bringing an awareness to your whole body, your whole living presence in this moment. This entire living being. We allow ourselves to sit as a mountain. If you were a mountain in this moment, what kind of mountain would you be? So it might be very pointy, it might be rounded, maybe we're a whole mountain range. Sensing the life around us, the life on us, different insects and reptiles and mammals that we're home to. So many different green things, whether they're microscopic or whether they're huge jungly things growing on this mountain. Might feel very snowy or pebbly, quite bare. Just sensing the ability of a mountain within all that life, the weather moving around it, different sounds in the air, full of life in kind of microscopic ways and in very big ways. That there's part of the mountain that knows just how to sit. You know, it doesn't need to resist the life. It's not telling all the animals to just stop for a moment. You know, there's part of the mountain that's so wise that can allow all of this motion and sound and all of the different signs of life and can still be deeply solid within that. And there's part of us that is exactly like that mountain. That we can be in a space where there's many signs of life and sounds around us, so many different thoughts and feelings that move through us all the time. And there's part of us that knows just how to sit. Indeed, there are particles, molecules inside us that were once part of a mountain. Maybe calcium or other minerals. It's once part of a mountain. So we can kind of call on our mountain ancestors. That part of us that knows just how to sit. I abandon all that I think I am. I abandon all that I think I am, all that I hope to be, all that I believe I possess. I let go of the past. I withdraw my grasping hand from the future. And in the great silence of this moment, I alertly rest my soul. I let go of the past. I withdraw my grasping hand from the future. And in the great silence of this moment, I alertly rest my soul. Allowing ourselves to be without struggling. We can be just as we are. Thoughts moving through, feelings moving through, our amazing, curious minds wandering, scampering off for a moment, and then we draw them back with kindness, re-establish ourselves. This moment, breath coming, breath going. In a moment, I'll sound the bell. There's off camera, there is a bell, and this is a very kind bell. Its only job is to bring us back to this moment of our life, to allow our mind to stop time traveling. Our mind is such a great time traveler, scampers forward to the future, replays the past, sometimes very addictively. So this bell can invite us afresh into this moment, to simply allow ourselves to rest in our body, just as we are. Practicing with the bell is a great way to practice with our thoughts. It kind of trains us how to allow something to arise and move through and fall away in its own perfect time. So I'm feeling very grateful to the bell. So welcome, dear friends. A deep bow to us all for creating this circle together, circle of rectangles that we form. And with this session on caring for anxiety, so how we can hold space to allow our anxiety to be cared for and to deliberately nourish our happiness, we will sample 4 practices. So in our arrival meditation, we sampled the practice of being solid as a mountain, allowing ourselves to see ourselves as a mountain and to connect with the quality of mountainness, the quality of being grounded and still and strong, even amidst so much life. So I wanted to, it's funny, with World Happiness Week, they were asking what I'd like to speak about. And I was like, I don't think we can speak about happiness without speaking about suffering. So often when we talk about happiness, we think of like all the things that I want to get in order that I think they will make me happy. And actually there's a flip side to that there are things that that are present that we can learn how to take care of. Which greatly increase our feeling of happiness. So as Thich Nhat Hanh says, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. So happiness is not a destination in the future where something else will be present or not be present, like a pandemic. That we think, I'll be happy once this is over. I'll be happy once something else happens. And Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh shares with us that there's no happiness other than in this moment. It's now or never. So by taking care of this moment really well, we actually lay the foundations for being able to be happier in the future as well, so that we can really train ourselves to make a habit of noticing the wholesome conditions now, of taking care of our anger, our anxiety, our guilt or shame, and of allowing ourselves to be free. So I wanted to allow a little space in case there are any questions that anyone has. So if anyone is feeling, I just got to get this, got to drop this question into the circle now. Now is a good moment. And I think everyone has the power to unmute if you do need to. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna dive into our second practice. One of the quotes that kind of comes to me when I think around happiness, well, there's two really. One is the author Jodi Picoult says that anxiety is like a rocking chair. Like it gives us something to do, but we don't really get anywhere. And when we work with our anxiety in this way, we work with it kind of as a habitual force, its own little momentum. And actually it needs very little to just keep rocking and keep rocking. So when we practice taking care of our anxiety, we notice our habit energy. So we kind of notice our habit of simply rocking, that if I feel a feeling of anxiety, the chances are there are certain thoughts that will come up. No matter what I'm worried about, there's a certain flavor to my thinking. And that I can learn how to recognize that, to recognize where anxiety lives in me, so that I can care for the symptoms first, rather than getting stuck in a story about anxiety. And the other quote that I think of is the writer and philosopher Kierkegaard has said that to move forward in life requires being open to possibilities. And this means experiencing anxiety. So simply the action of moving forward requires us to be open to possibilities, and therefore to be open to uncertainty and the sense of not knowing, not having so much control. And Kierkegaard says, without an ability to coexist with anxiety, we would be unable to utilize our power to create new possibilities that had never before seen the light of day. So for me, it gives me a lot of encouragement to learn how to coexist with anxiety, to not see it as a bad thing or as a negative thing. I simply need to learn how to be with it, because it's a very natural part, well, of being a mammal anyway on the planet. All mammals feel worried from time to time. And our human brains, because they have an amazing capacity to imagine and an amazing ability to remember, we kind of beef up our ability to feel anxiety. So there's just some aspects about us being humans that makes us a little more prone to anxiety. So let us begin our second practice, which is about inviting in a feeling of warm-heartedness, of kindness. And really, when we practice mindfulness, we aim to have this attitude towards ourselves. There's no point in being able to look like with laser focus amazingly at this moment if we can't also look with kindness, because sometimes we come back to ourselves in this moment and we might be like a lonely place to be. And, that might be really hard. We might be a furious place to be. So we need to be able to see with eyes of kindness and have a very stable attitude of care towards ourselves in order to maintain our practice. So again, allow yourself to have a position of ease and care. A big hello to Baruch and Sheila, joining us from Jerusalem. Melting borders. This is practice sans frontières, just without borders. So allowing yourself to have a really easeful position. So if you're sitting upright, you can do this stretched out. There's no one way. You simply want your body to feel safe and comfortable. And if we are sitting upright, we can allow our seat to be snuggled in, allowing our back to have a sense of gentle reach, like a tree growing up towards the sunshine. And allowing ourselves to sense the area of our heart. So sensing just where your heart resides in your chest. You might sense an energy or a beating or a pulse. Knowing that this heart beats for you day and night. When you rest and sleep really deeply, your heart stays awake to keep you really safe. Beating to make every moment of your life possible. We allow ourselves to connect, maybe a natural sense of care or gratitude may rise up. And this practice is an invitation. So there's no forcing any feeling. Really, it's just an invitation to see what our heart naturally experiences. So we might begin by sensing what we feel of as a warm-hearted feeling towards others. So sometimes warm-hearted feeling towards a pet. Sometimes pets are very safe people to feel, safe creatures to feel warm towards. People can be a little more complicated. So you might begin with maybe an animal. There might be a flower or a plant or a tree in your life. It might be a pebble. Just something in your life that you feel warm. And then we're going to stay with living, moving things like maybe a cat or a dog or a horse. Something that we care about their well-being. We know there are times feel times worried or they get a fright or they're themselves to sense this care towards them. Sensing how it feels to love or to have joy in another being's existence. I'd sense moments where an animal is naturally really happy or playful. Sensing the joy we have in each other. We can expand that now to see what people our heart would draw into this awareness. Maybe friends who it's almost hard not to smile when we think of them. People who we care very deeply about. Maybe family members. And we aim to stay simply with the facts of caring, simply with the warm-hearted feeling in our heart. So not getting caught in a story about the person, simply staying with this sense of care, of love, of kindness, maybe delight. Think of human beings, you might think of times where we've laughed together or danced, times where we felt so close, where we've known we belong very deeply. Just aware of this feeling of our heart caring. When it feels like to feel love or joy, delight in these other lives on the planet. And very gently we'll allow that to turn towards ourselves. So allowing ourselves to be aware of being cared about, to know that there are many lives on this planet that really care about us. That we are known, this heart is known to others. There are people who really like us. There are people who can't think about us without them smiling. People who care for us very deeply, maybe appreciating us, treasuring us. Knowing that we're trusted by many. And it may be that this sense of offering and receiving kind of just merges into a single field, this energetic sense of being part of existence together, sense of warm-heartedness towards each other, towards ourselves. And without boundaries, we give and receive this care without obstacles. For some of us, it's more difficult to receive. We've been trained to give much more easily. And so allowing it to be without conditions. Just basking in this sense of appreciation and care, warm-heartedness. And you may sense this as maybe images or memories, or it may be felt as a color or a texture, or simply an inner sense, being in a space of belonging, deep caring, space that has this tender gravity of kindness, and this fierce love and compassion for being alive. And just as a sauna kind of does the work for us, all we have to do is allow ourselves to be in it. So we can simply allow ourselves to sit as a human being, allowing ourselves to rest in this environment of warm-heartedness. Sensing our heart, this heart that feels so much, has experienced so much in our life. And widening that sense to connect all of the hearts on the call. It's a whole circle that we form together in the space. So much experience and wisdom and laughter and kindness and support. So much friendship. In a moment, I'll sound the bell. It'll ripple through once more, and we can simply allow ourselves to rest in the kind of the echoes of our practice. It's resting in the residue of warm-heartedness. You can release your attention. If you're in a room with a window or if you're outside, you might simply glance as far away as you can glance so that you get a sense of the earth stretching from you. You're so much bigger than this little space of our screens. And allow your gaze to be really soft. So you might take in, might be able to see a cloud or a tree or inside the room that you're in, there might be a beautiful color that you can simply rest your gaze on. Allowing yourself to kind of receive the nourishment of a beautiful color. So when we learn to take care of our anxiety or anything else that's kind of a strong habit that causes us some suffering, maybe causes other people some suffering, we begin first by stopping. So when we stopped in mountain at the beginning, it's kind of our first step is to stop. And then we need to be able to establish ourselves in kindness. So anxiety has a very strong momentum, has a very strong, it's like if you were in water, that you get caught by a very strong current. And so by stopping, we kind of bring ourselves onto the bank of the river where we can go, oh, I can see the currents now. I can see where I'm more vulnerable, where I might not be so safe if I don't pay attention. And so then we offer ourselves this unconditional kindness for our being in this moment. And that can take a little while to kind of build that muscle, because it might be a very underdeveloped part of us. I think sometimes we focus on self-esteem, and that tends to be very much comparing ourselves to other people. You know, I'm okay, you're okay, I'm okay, you're not okay, or vice versa. And with practicing with kindness, we aim for it to be not related to how deserving we are about anything. So it's unconditional kindness, simply because we're a living being on the planet, and being alive is really hard at times. So the good thing about offering unconditional compassion or kindness for ourselves is that it's there when we feel great, that we can kind of like living our very best life. We can kind of really root for ourselves. And it's there when we are really laid low. It's there when we're having such a challenging time. And it may be that we think, I'm in the same current again and again and again. And at those kind of moments, we can judge ourselves very harshly. A very strong critical voice can come up. Or it can be a voice that presents itself as really kind, but is actually treating ourselves as a big self-help project. And actually it just treats ourselves as something to be fixed. Just going to get rid of that anxiety and then I'll be fine. And so neither, like one is more subtle than the other, but neither are very useful voices for long-term healing. So actually where we want to rest ourselves is in a space of unconditional kindness and compassion. And we do that over and over and over again. And over time, our ability to be an ally to ourselves. So that doesn't mean always thinking that we're right or letting ourselves away with it or feeling that we always need to win. It's being an ally, just really being a good friend to ourselves in this moment of our life, becomes stronger and stronger. So that while there may be sabotaging thoughts or very old kind of lines of thought in our head, like I'm such a loser, what a failure, whatever it is we all have our habitual kind of inner voices that say very similar things our whole lives, that this sense of unconditional kindness and compassion actually becomes stronger than those voices. So that those voices come in and then we can kind of recognize them. And we know we don't need to believe everything we think, right? We have 50 to 80,000 thoughts every day. And there's no way all of those are true. There's just no way. So we need to start being more circumspect, more careful with what thoughts we choose to believe. And so establishing ourselves in compassion and kindness helps us to feel safe and cared for. And then that can help us to experience clarity over time. So in a moment, we're going to do a short practice about mapping anxiety, but I want to leave another little space in case there are questions or reflections that have come up. Beautiful. Okay. So for our third practice, so mindfulness always begins with our body, because our body always shows up in this moment. So our body does not go time traveling, unlike our mind, which is a little bit less trustworthy than our body as an anchor. And with this practice, we use our body as an anchor, and we create a space to explore a little bit about how anxiety presents itself in our body. So what we worry about changes all the time. Like no one could have predicted that, you know, a human would look at another human and huge anxiety might arise by like thinking their mask is underneath their nose. Whereas nowadays, that's very strong anxiety for some of us. And so as we grow and develop in our life and our circumstances change, we might be worried about, you know, the dark or the monster under the bed, or not being invited to a birthday party, or someone not loving us, or failing at an exam, or not doing well enough at a job, or a relationship breaking up, or getting a hip replacement. So the whole way through our lives, we have different objects of anxiety. But what tends to happen is that how anxiety feels inside our body tends to be very similar. So with this practice, we actually stay with just the symptoms of anxiety in our body, because if I can learn to take care of those well, then actually the story or the object of my anxiety, it doesn't really matter what that is first. First, I care for the symptoms inside me, and then that makes me more robust, more clear-sighted in terms of being able to look at what might be something that causes me anxiety. And remember that anxiety is almost totally in the future. Like usually, because actually if we saw someone with their mask under their nose, the chances are that anger might be the first thing that comes up, or maybe not, maybe it'd be totally neutral, because our mask is also under our nose. Maybe we're like the under nose mask people. But anxiety tends to be about something that has not presented itself yet. So it tends to be always like not in the room with us, not in this exact moment in time. It tends to be very future-based. So the ability to disconnect, to let go of the future and come back into this moment is already incredibly healing for anxiety. So we want to snuggle into our seat again and allow ourselves to feel like we are a safe home to bring our mind and our attention back to. So allowing the sense of connection with the furniture. If you're sitting, then allowing a sense of aliveness in your spine, the sense of vibrancy from the base of your spine all the way up to where your vertebrae become very fine in your neck. We can enjoy a sound of the bell. Maybe able to sense that sense of kindness or care that we had before. It's really the attitude we want to bring to ourselves when we practice. And for this practice of mapping anxiety in our body, we will bring up a memory of anxiety, or it might be a living anxiety that you have now. And what we're looking for is a very small to medium worry. So not the biggest worries in your life. So it's like having training wheels on a bike, stabilizers, that we allow ourselves to have just a very small, just something that's a little bit worrying for us. So it could be something to do with something that lies ahead in our future that we think we will encounter, and we're a little nervous about it. Might be something in relationship with another person, with kind of a more free-floating sense of the future. You might have a very specific sense of what if this happens, that we feel that something is very plausible, and that if it happens, we might not have imagined how we might resource ourselves to take care of that. Usually anxiety just ends with the worry rather than with the resourcing. So when you find something that offers you a sense of worry, allow it to come really close so that we can allow this small sense of anxiety to live in our body. So allowing yourself to feel what it feels like to have a small sense of worry. And if at any time it grows, like we don't want to be taking care of big worry. So if at any time it grows, allow your awareness to sink down and down through your chest, down through your belly button, washing over your hips, all the way down to your feet, and wiggle your toes. And that's a great way of kind of resetting ourselves from the pull of the momentum of anxiety. So having a little worry, allowing it to be alive, and so that your body feels like you are a little bit worried, you're feeling a little anxiety about something. So allowing your being to kind of catch that energy. And we'll very gently explore down through our body how it feels. And we kind of look with the kindest, wisest part of us. So maybe first sensing your face. So when you're feeling a sense of worry, how does your face feel? You may have an awareness of your forehead, your eyes, your jaw perhaps. Sensing where anxiety lives. And you might have a sense of what kind of thoughts you think when you're feeling worried. And the thoughts may have a shape, like they are, it's not a clear line. They might be a little bit jagged or feathered. They might be pointed. They might be quick. So just allowing a very gentle sense of the kind of thoughts that you think. You may experience them as a movement, a color. We sense our thinking in very different ways. When you're feeling a worry, how does your brain feel? Might feel like a pattern, like an addictive motion. And bringing our awareness, so we'll come down through our body, and almost like if you poured anxiety into your body, can you sense where it goes to rest, like where it pools or where it resides in your body? You might sense your throat, top of your shoulders, your shoulder blades, sensing the upper part of your chest, your heart, your tummy, and widening out to sense your arms and hands, the muscles of your legs, your feet. Sometimes anxiety comes with a restless, distracted quality. Allowing yourself very gently to see where anxiety lives and how it feels, how it presents in you. You might sense, an awareness in your tummy, may feel like butterflies or a stone. Feel very different. And can you sense where your breath resides naturally? So when you're feeling anxious, can you sense where your breath, whether your breath comes in your upper chest, whether it's deeper around the level of your heart, whether it's deeper again? You just sense where your breath naturally moves to. And can you sense the kind of feelings or sensations that are present in your body? So it may be that anxiety is kind of the first song of a playlist that we have, and that when we feel anxiety, we may also feel restless or depleted. Sometimes we feel exhausted straight away, or we might feel despair or panic. So just noticing kind of the neighborhood that anxiety lives in. Again, looking with the kindest eyes we can. So there's nothing to fix. We're being a kind witness, just looking. And then sensing kind of this moment of worry that we had, this thing we're worrying about. So what is the moment like if we gather like all the strands of anxiety, all the symptoms, all the sensations, and imagine you made a coat out of them, that you could just take off the coat. And you could actually just remove that. All the strands you could just maybe cup in your two hands or take it off like a coat and lay it down and take a step back. Just allowing all of the symptoms to drain from our body, and then sensing what's true. You know, what's true then? Who are we as a human being? Who are you without the all of those different sensations and symptoms, kind of like the tentacles of anxiety? We practice that over and over. What might it be like to gather all of this and to set it down? For me, I feel like someone who's simply trying to take care of myself. Actually, all that's left is kindness. And then I can think of a more wise way to be kind towards myself than just rocking in the rocking chair of anxiety. So we know that there's a wisdom for anxiety. It comes up in order to keep us really safe, and that our brains evolved at a time when we lived in much, much more dangerous times. So we have an overly heightened awareness of anxiety. Any possible thing that might go wrong in our life, we overpay attention to the negative. And about 70% of our thinking on any given day is negative. You know, perfectly normal day, about 70% just inclines towards the negative. So it's quite a strong habit that we're looking to kind of move into a more upright perspective so that we can see things with more clarity. These are very deeply rooted feelings. So anxiety in itself, no problem with it. Like it's there to keep us safe. Like it's possible when anxiety comes up that we can go, I see you, my worry, and thanks for trying to keep me safe, and I've got this. Like, thank you, and I've got this. So that we know anxiety in its appropriate level, just there as a little alert system to go, make sure, you know, you're prepared for, or how can I help? Because its job is to worry. Its job is never to be soothed, never to be soothed. job is just fret a little bit. So you can imagine if we had a friend and all they did was fret and all we did was listen to them and believe everything that they said. That would not be a sane relationship to have. So we need to understand our anxiety in its place, that its job is there to alert us to any possible threat. And then our job is to manage things so that we can bring in a lot of our other resources of patience and care and problem solving, or even just releasing, knowing that is not an appropriate thought for me to believe. And I'm going to let you move on through in your own time. The average thought or sensation takes about 90 seconds to move through. If we don't feed it, on average, flushes through our system in about 90 seconds, which is why we need to learn how to hold ourselves to we can sit solid as a mountain for 90 seconds. Like there's a lot that we can avoid that will just have moved through in its own time without exacerbating it or dramatizing it, making a big story out of it. So with anxiety, we establish ourselves, we offer kindness, we get to know it in us. So that, because if we can take care of anxiety, let's say it's a scale of 1 to 10, if we can notice it when it's at 2 or 3 or 4, how easy is that to snuggle in and care for? Rather than when it's at a 7 or 8 or 9, when it feels that we haven't been listening to it. And now it feels like, red alert, all systems go. And then the energy of that is very strong, like much more difficult to interrupt. So by mapping our anxiety, we become much more nuanced. We get a much better feel for when we're feeling just a little bit uneasy to as it grows and grows and grows. And we offer appropriate care at each level that we notice. And then the fourth practice for us is by giving ourselves really good nutrition all the time. So sometimes the best treatment for anxiety is to deliberately pay attention to anxiety. And sometimes the best treatment is to notice something else as well. That we take time to strengthen our ability to feel safe or wonder or ease or joy. So we will do a short practice now where we just touch 4 different experiences in us, 4 different qualities that actually, if we work with them every day, they really strengthen the environment in which anxiety comes up. So it kind of like it strengthens the garden where there might be one monstrous plant that's really overgrown. And instead we're paying attention to the soil, to the sunlight that everything is getting to help this to have a more wholesome environment. So we kind of look to the whole ecosystem. Because if anxiety is very well nourished, the chances are that something else is very malnourished, and many things might be malnourished. So we look to nourishing the wholesome stuff. So coming back once more, we listen to the sound of the bell. So establishing ourselves with solidity and ease. And this is a practice of that explores meditation as nourishment, joy of meditation as good nourishment for ourselves. And we begin by imagining a sense of a vast blue sky. So it may be a blue sky that you saw today, it may be a memory, it may be imagined blue sky. Whatever sky that shows up is perfect. We're looking for a sky time that we could look up and sense as so much blue, like so vast and expansive. This wide sense of blueness above us. Sometimes we could see so much of the planet that we had a sense of the curvature of the earth. Sometimes the sky felt that wide. And inviting a sense of a spaciousness. Again, this isn't about forcing anything. We're simply kind of placing ourselves where we might feel these things, but there's no pressure. So sensing this wide blue sky, sensing how it feels to have space, like very freeing, liberating, boundless, non-judgmental space to simply be. You might sense your, sometimes our upper chest really responds to a sense of spaciousness. We'll allow our sense of blue skyness to begin to fade and bring in a sense or an image or memory of a sunset. Time when we experienced the sun going down at the end of a day, those different colors of striations through the sky, pinks and peaches, the brilliance of the sun as it begins to dip below the horizon. And it may be that we have a sense of ease, a sense of beauty, a day lived, a day of our life lived well. Sensing the feeling of a sunset. And we'll allow our sunset to begin to fade back and dissolve and bring in the sense of a night sky. So a time where we looked up, or you can imagine looking up from a picture and sensed this firmament of stars above us. Sense these galaxies and universes all around us. Extraordinary feeling. And very often a sense of wonder comes up when we took in the night sky in all its wonder. Sensing how wonder feels, again, where you feel wonder in your body, how your face feels, your thoughts, your upper chest, your heart, your tummy. Wonder. Then releasing our sense of this beautiful night sky, bringing in a sense of dawn. Just before sunrise, this moment of the sun beginning to manifest, this light creeping in across the land. Often it's a moment where we see grey turning into rose or pink or yellow. It can feel very, very precious to witness the sunrise when a lot of the earth is still sleeping. We have a sense of possibility, a sense that anything can happen today. Just allowing ourselves to be nourished by the sense of sunrise. New day dawning. It will unfold, maybe in magical ways. And you can slowly and lovingly release your sense of dawn. And simply rest for a moment in the afterglow of those 4 states. Spaciousness, ease, wonder, possibility. So by stopping to invoke these states, we are generating a new experience in our heart, in the neural pathways of our brain. And we know that our mind takes its inclination from what we think repeatedly. So we need to be very careful where we repeatedly rest our thoughts, because our mind, it forms its habits from these repeated visiting of experiences. So we may repeatedly visit an experience of safety or ease or wonder, possibility, spaciousness, and our mind eventually will take its habit from that. And you may have sensed in your body that that when we simply imagine, like an imaginary sunrise or imaginary firmament of stars, that our body responds immediately. So your body believes everything that you think, everything. Which is why we need to be very careful with our thinking, because our body's always listening. So when I think a thought of anxiety, my body doesn't know whether that is plausible or wildly outlandish as something to worry about. It simply believes my thought. And if I think a thought of, a firmament of stars, my body believes that just as easily. Like, just had this incredibly nourishing experience of imagining standing under starlit sky, feeling awe and wonder. And so when we begin to notice our thoughts, and especially our habitual thoughts, we can kind of be a good shepherd to then begin to divert our attention away from anxious thoughts that are quite toxic to us and towards wholesome thoughts. And when we do this, so for example, if you felt a sense of spaciousness, for several hours after this practice, you are slightly more vulnerable to feeling that again. So by having felt and reflected on one moment of spaciousness, we make ourselves, it makes it more easy for us to feel for several hours. And the same way with wonder, with ease, with possibility, we're just a little more open to those for a few hours. So over time, as we strengthen these muscles of caring for anxiety, we are able to care with kindness for anxiety, but we're also simply more able to feel happy, at ease, grateful, connected, awe. So it really changes the landscape of our experience of a normal day. Anxiety very naturally reduces a little, and also we can care for it overtly much more skillfully, but it's also in this landscape that is much more wholesome, because we're making ourselves more vulnerable to noticing an easeful moment, delicious piece of food, a friend's smile. We simply nourish ourselves with more wholesome things. So let's sound the bell once more, and then we can have a little space if there are questions or reflections. So giving yourself one more moment to allow ourselves to simply be, nothing particular to focus on. Resting in our kind, living presence, drawn by this tender gravity of kindness to this moment. Allowing ourselves to feel love or care towards ourselves. That's possible, just whatever's naturally here. Maybe learn ways to take really good care of our thoughts, our feelings, our body, our heart, our whole being. May we not run away from parts of ourselves. May we not run away from our anxiety or ignore it. May we allow ourselves to strengthen our ability to thrive, to sense our well-being and the wholesomeness of this moment. May we take really good care of ourselves so that we can take really good care of each other. So thank you so much for being together and creating this space. We have a few minutes if anyone has questions or reflections. Pooling our wisdom always benefits all of us. So you're very welcome to unmute, or you can unmute just to say goodbye. That's fine too. So if there are things that you noticed about practicing, the educator John Dewey says that we don't learn from experience, which is a shame. We don't learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on our experience. So, so part of mindfulness is this witnessing and reflecting about how we felt and what we noticed. It's a great gift to us all. And actually, what I'm going to do is stop recording. I had a request to record the session for someone whose birthday it is. So happy birthday, you know who you are. And I'm going to stop.